I'm Ted O'Brien. In the United States, 90% of people with developmental disabilities will experience sexual abuse at some point in their lives. In this program, we will witness cases of physical, verbal, emotional, and sexual abuse and neglect.
Crimes involving individuals with disabilities is at epidemic levels across the country. Persons with developmental disabilities are at a risk 10 times or higher to be a victim of a crime. There are many reasons for that, primarily because those cases are either not reported or underreported.
Abuse is often not obvious. It can be subtle and does not need to be intentional. You are the first line of defense.
In Massachusetts, we have a statewide initiative called the Building Partnership for the Protection of Persons with Disabilities Initiative, which is really making a difference in the lives of individuals with disabilities who are victims of crime or at risk of becoming victims of crime. According to at least one study, more than 5 million crimes are committed against persons with disabilities each year in the United States.
In Massachusetts, there are over 3.7 million individuals between the ages of 21 and 64, of which 17% are persons with disabilities. Like the nationwide trend, crimes against persons with disabilities are underreported and often go unrecognized.
The goal of this particular training video is to provide information for those individuals who work with persons with disabilities and help them to identify situations where they suspect a crime has occurred or in fact know that a crime has occurred. The statistics are staggering. It is an underreported problem.
There are many obstacles to reporting these crimes. People are unclear about what constitutes abuse and their responsibility to report that abuse. In some instances, there may be a code of silence among employees, and the individual employee may be reluctant to break that code of silence. In addition, the abuser may be a friend. The reporter may be afraid of retaliation from the abuser or employer. Personal doubts about the credibility of the victim. The victim may not want to file a report. All of these obstacles perpetuate the cycle of abuse. Although anyone can report abuse, there are people required by Mass General Law, Chapter 19, because of the nature of their work, to report suspected abuse against persons with disabilities.
Mandated reporters have been designated by law as individuals who, because of the nature of their work, working closely with individuals with disabilities, are required to report suspected abuse or criminal activity.
In Massachusetts, the mandated reporters are medical personnel, medical examiners, social workers, foster parents, police officers, dentists, public or private school teachers, educational administrators, psychologists, guidance or family counselors, daycare workers, and employees of private agencies providing services to people with disabilities. Employees of state agencies within the Executive Office of Health and Human Services, such as the DMH, DMR, and MRC. If abuse is going to be stopped, it needs to be recognized and reported. It's as simple as that. Let's examine 3 cases involving crimes against persons with disabilities. We'll learn how these investigators handled these difficult situations and how they are reported. It's up to you to help us.
My name is Sabrina Kazaklas, and I work with the Massachusetts Rehabilitation Commission. And we provide protective services for persons with disabilities who are being abused by their caregivers. So we receive reports through the Disabled Persons Protection Commission, and we investigate the reports of abuse. We received the report in regards to Sue and what was happening with her and what John was doing to her. Her friend Sarah reported to an agency that she was very concerned, so I received the case. Sue is a 49-year-old woman with progressive MS, and John convinced her that he was the best guy ever. And once Sue trusted him enough, they got married and they were going to live a very happy life for the rest of their lives. And once she was diagnosed with MS, John's whole attitude changed. Once he was told that he had to take a more active role as being a caregiver to Sue, he didn't like it at all, because Sue was supposed to take care of him, not the other way around. And I think that he wanted to show that he was the guy that she was going to stay with, and she's going to like it whether or not he hits her, he beats her, or doesn't take care of her. That's it. If he's going to have to do it, then she's going to accept whatever kind of services, whatever kind of care that he has to offer to her. With the depression coupled with what was happening to her physically, she felt that she'll be in the situation with John for the rest of her life, and she accepted it. And I think Sue felt really alone, because this is the person who loves her, this is the person who's supposed to take care of her, but not in this way. So once he hit her and she sustained a bruise, he wanted to make sure that there was plenty of time before she saw her doctor, because obviously the doctor is going to ask how she got the bruise in her eye. The one person who stuck around really was Sarah. And I think Sarah knew something was going on, and Sarah would probe a little bit and would ask some questions, but Sarah wasn't really sure what was happening either, because things were so subtle. And if Sarah called the house, John would say, oh, you know, Sue is sleeping. I'm sorry, she can't come to the phone. So Sarah really didn't think twice about it. And I think that Sarah was in a very difficult position. When Sarah took Sue out that day to her doctor's appointment, I think that was Sue's saving grace, because Sarah wanted to have lunch with Sue and reassure Sue that things will be okay with her, but Sue was late coming back home, and John was very angry about that, and John hit Sue. And Sarah saw the bruise, and Sarah wanted to help. And I think that Sarah was trying to give Sue some encouragement and saying to Sue, don't worry, it'll be okay, it'll be fine, don't worry about it. But Sue had to be convinced of that. And I think the more she talked to Sarah, the better she felt, the safer she felt. However, Sarah was also struggling, because she wanted to tell someone else and said, you know what, Sue, I really can't help you. I know you're telling me all this stuff, but how can I personally do anything? Sarah went to the house, and she wanted to know if Sue was all right, because the phone kept ringing, and that was unlike Sue, especially since Sarah knew of John's schedule. Ringing the doorbell, nothing. And Sue, depending where she was in the house, she couldn't necessarily get to the door.
Sue?
At one point it got really quiet for Sarah to hear Sue weeping. And she just followed the sound.
Sue? 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 Goodness, Sue, what's going on?